Okay, action. Cut.
Yeah.
Where is it? Cut. Just yeah, maybe you should take a picture.
Oh, keep forgetting this.
Won't show too much. Silhouette.
Okay. ये जो गेट है ना, इसको तो नहीं बंद कर रहे ना? नहीं नहीं, हम चाह रहे थे कि इसको साथ साथ खोल लो, अगर जब यहाँ से तो नहीं गिरेगा।
इसको भी खोलेंगे और इसको भी खोलेंगे, थोड़ा थोड़ा खुलवा के
देखो अंदर से क्या निकलता है ना। ये वाला तो अगर अंदर तक निकल आए तो बहुत अच्छा है ना। और वो कमरे को भी खाली कराना पड़ेगा, वहाँ पर मलबा नहीं हो सकता ना, सारा एक बार खाली कर देंगे। इनफैक्ट आई वांट यू टू सी दैट रूम फ्रॉम आउटसाइड।
वो तो कथक का।
Shut up, rolling.
What is rolling? प्रशांत कुंडू. Down Neemrana.
देखो कटे संभालो है। नहीं आ रहे हैं। ये बोल सुन बस हो गया।
Tell me when to stop. Yeah, you can see it.
You tell me. Till 6 years ago, this once magnificent fort palace of Neemrana, which was built in the 15th century,
was an utter ruin, home only to bats and bees and snakes and goats, till it was amazingly transformed, not by governmental or institutional initiative, but by a few individuals who dared to dream. Cut. Once again.
भाई साहब एक मिनट पीछे रहना उनको भी रोक लो
Cut.
Go.
Just 6 years ago, this once magnificent fort palace of Neemrana.
Yeah.
Just 6 years ago, this once magnificent fort palace at Neemrana, which was built in the 15th century, was an utter ruin, home only to bats and bees and snakes and goats, till it was magically, once again, rolling? Just 6 years ago, this once magnificent fort palace of Neemrana, which was built in the 15th century, was an utter ruin, home only to snakes and goats and bats and bees, till it was amazingly transformed, not by governmental or institutional initiative, but by a few individuals who dared to dream. ठीक है?
Yep.
The rejuvenation of the Neemrana Fort Palace is an outstanding, once again, 3210. The rejuvenation of 3210. The rejuvenation of Neemrana Fort Palace, an outstanding example of individual, once again, roll.
Rolling.
The rejuvenation of Neemrana Fort Palace, an outstanding example of what individual initiative and imagination can do. This is Siddharth Basu for Surabhi at Neemrana. Once again.
धूप आ गया. Go.
Cut.
Rolling.
The story of how the 400-year-old 3210. The story of how a 400-year-old, once again, 3210. The story of how the Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding example of what individual initiative and imagination can do. This is Siddharth Basu for Surabhi at Neemrana in Rajasthan. Once again, Matha Chok Beshi.
Silence, please. Rolling.
The story of how the Neemrana Fort Palace was brought back to life is an outstanding example of what individual initiative and imagination can do. This is Siddharth Basu for Surabhi. Cut. For Surabhi. Once again.
From Neemrana.
From.
Rolling.
The story of how the Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding example of what individual initiative and imagination can do. This is Siddharth Basu from Neemrana in Rajasthan for Surabhi. Cut. One.
Yep.
Cut. Let it go. Okay. Rolling. The story of how the Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding example of what individual initiative and imagination can do. This is Siddharth Basu from Neemrana in Rajasthan for Surabhi. Cut. Once more.
Prashant, your shadow on.
Rolling.
The story of how the 400-year-old Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding of 3210. The story of how the 400-year-old 3210. The story of how the 400-year-old Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding example. 3210. The story of how the 400-year-old Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding example. 3210. The story of how the 400-year-old Neemrana Fort Palace was literally brought back to life is an outstanding example of what individual initiative and imagination can do. This is Siddharth Basu for Surabhi at Neemrana in Rajasthan. Cut.
Rolling.
किसी भी इंसान की व्यक्तिगत दिलचस्पी, लगन, मेहनत और थोड़ी सी दीवानगी किसी भी स्वप्न को साकार कर सकती है। नीमराना महल इसकी सबसे बड़ी मिसाल है। मैं सिद्धार्थ बासु, नीमराना राजस्थान से सुरभि के लिए। कट वंस अगेन, रेडी। सिर्फ इंसान की व्यक्तिगत दिलचस्पी, लगन, मेहनत और थोड़ी सी दीवानगी किसी भी स्वप्न को साकार कर सकती है। नीमराना महल इसकी सबसे बड़ी। सिर्फ इंसान की व्यक्तिगत दिलचस्पी, लगन, मेहनत और थोड़ी सी दीवानगी किसी भी स्वप्न को साकार कर सकती है। नीमराना महल इसकी सबसे बड़ी मिसाल है। मैं सिद्धार्थ बासु, नीमराना राजस्थान से। फक कतला।
रोलिंग।
सिर्फ इंसान की व्यक्तिगत दिलचस्पी, लगन, मेहनत और थोड़ी सी दीवानगी किसी भी स्वप्न को साकार कर सकती है। नीमराना महल इसकी सबसे बड़ी मिसाल है। मैं सिद्धार्थ बासु, नीमराना राजस्थान से सुरभि के लिए।
रोलिंग।
सिर्फ इंसान की व्यक्तिगत दिलचस्पी, लगन, मेहनत और थोड़ी सी दीवानगी किसी भी स्वप्न को साकार कर सकती है। नीमराना महल इसकी सबसे बड़ी मिसाल है। मैं सिद्धार्थ बासु, नीमराना राजस्थान से सुरभि के लिए। कट। The thing itself. Do I go left or straight, Aman?
Straight.
Sorry, meter.
What I did is actually I started staying away from Delhi
Do I
so
go
much
left?
that straight. Okay, just go straight. We haven't reached. We'll hit into the main road or whatever.
बस के इधर नीचे आता
तुम दिल से गोरा गोरा गोरा, you know? ऐसे मैं तुम्हारे से काला हूँ, you know? दिल से नहीं, ये तो अंग्रेज ही बड़े तेज होते हैं, हमारी बोली सीख लेते हैं। They don't believe that I'm in India. They said
just give me the way, Aman.
You're doing well.
একটুখানি বেশি টেবলে
In fact, what you can do is that telephone BD, you just do a shorter way, so whenever you talk to that guy, you know, that's the. This is that police station from the shutter, which you can get a good shot. If you want.
ওই ছাদ থেকে একটু ট্রাই করতে চাও? নো, No, it doesn't work. The restoration work had, kinds and kinds of work involved.
Or everybody said it was not possible that this could happen.
Yeah, I mean, there were walls falling apart, the roofs blasted, there were no floors, there was no ceiling, there was just rubble everywhere.
The joke is that the Oberoi sent structural engineering architect. The only.
1 second. Okay, I have to stand over here. Aman, how did you approach this job of restoration? What were the things that you had to do?
Well, broadly speaking, with a total approach of optimism, because all the.
Don't answer my question first. Begin with a sentence. Sorry, a complete
sorry.
sentence because my question is.
Yeah, sorry.
You just begin. You just
Okay.
begin. I won't ask you a question.
No.
I'll say action. I'll tell you when. Action.
We had to approach the problem with optimism.
Define the problem. Begin as if I haven't asked you a question.
I see.
The problem of restoring Neemrana.
Yeah.
When
Okay,
we came to Neemrana, it was this. And we,
Yeah. Neemrana was a Neemrana was a total ruin. So the only way we could approach the problem was with optimism, and optimism by seeing the problem not as so grand that it would dwarf us. The idea was to tackle one thing at a time and to do it so that it would open up slowly. So we attacked, electricity, laid cables, lit one bulb, and got.
Sorry. The sound. We are running out of light.
I can see
Stand
that.
by.
Rolling.
Action.
The ruin of Neemrana was absolutely formidable and scary, and everybody was terrified with it. So we had to really see the problem with an optimism. The walls were falling, the roofs had collapsed, there were bats everywhere, there were snakes, there were civet cats. So we cleared bits of it, made it inhabitable, and moved backward. We never imagined that in a period of 5 years we could make a 9-storied palace which is spread over 3 acres actually livable and safe, which it has become. And structurally also we tackled the problem with common sense. We spoke to the local mistris and used their sense and our own. And since nobody in India had restored a 15th century building which was set into a hill and 9-storied high, there was no real expertise we could take in the matter except common sense. The foundations were sitting on rock, it wouldn't sink down, and where there were cracks we stitched them. We put thick members of stone, and we filled it with liquid lime, with cement, with iron, whatever was demanded of that problem, and we got this far.